Hello everyone and welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. It may not be making headlines like it was a few weeks ago, but Israel's war against Hamas is still raging on. The Israel Defense Forces say that Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip have been firing rockets at Israeli civilians every 10 minutes on average. Israeli forces have hit Hamas with ongoing airstrikes for almost 7 weeks now. And troops, as you know, went in on the ground for several days to destroy smuggling tunnels and to cripple Hamas. But here we are in the 49th day of all that fighting, and Hamas is still able to bombard Israeli civilians with rockets. Hamas has certainly been weakened by the Israeli army, but the unending rockets show that this terrorist group has still not been defeated. Shin Bet is Israel's internal security agency, and it recently released a surprising report. That report from last Monday reveals that while Hamas was fighting Israel from the Gaza Strip, it was simultaneously planning to violently take over the West Bank. The West Bank, of course, is the large territory in eastern Israel that contains about 2 million Palestinians and 500,000 Jewish Israelis. It's ruled by Fatah, but Hamas wanted to change that. Here's what the Jerusalem Post reported last week. It said a large-scale Hamas terrorist formation in the West Bank and Jerusalem planned to destabilize the region through a series of deadly terrorist attacks in Israel and then topple the Fatah-ruled Palestinian Authority. Shin Bet uncovered the plot earlier this summer, and it arrested 93 Hamas members, not in the Gaza Strip, keep in mind, not where all the fighting has been going on, but in the West Bank. Here's more from the Jerusalem Post article. It said the plot was orchestrated by overseas Hamas operatives headquartered in Turkey and centered on a string of mass casualty terrorist attacks on Israeli targets. The end goal was to destabilize the Palestinian territories and use the instability to carry out a military coup, overthrowing the government of PA President Mahmoud Abbas. So that's how Hamas likes to advance policy, if you will. Not debate, not elections, rockets and mass casualty terrorism. According to the Post, this would have been the biggest takeover attempt since the formation of Hamas back in 1987. Had the terrorist ring not been dismantled, massive Israeli casualties would have most likely resulted, and it may well have brought down the Palestinian leadership in the West Bank. Now, I want to draw your attention to the timing of these reports. Remember that at the end of May, Hamas and Fatah actually formed a unity government. And you'll remember the United States strongly endorsed this new unity government. Israel, on the other hand, was shocked.
I'm deeply troubled by the announcement that the United States will work with the Palestinian government backed by Hamas. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization. It's recognized as such by the State Department. Hamas has murdered countless innocent civilians, including Americans. Hamas calls for the killing of Jews and for the destruction of the State of Israel. So all those who genuinely seek peace must reject President Abbas's embrace of Hamas. And most especially, I think the United States must make it absolutely clear to the Palestinian president that his pact with Hamas, the terrorist organization that seeks Israel's liquidation, is simply unacceptable.
Now, at the time he made those remarks, his own security forces were beginning to uncover the truth about what Hamas was planning in the West Bank against the very organization it was supposedly unifying with. Commentary Magazine's Jonathan Tobin drew attention to this deception just last week. He said that Hamas wasn't planning on going along with Fatah's leadership, as Abbas and Secretary of State John Kerry naively believed. Instead, they set up new terror cells in all the major towns and cities of the West Bank, whose goal was to ultimately set off a new conflagration with Israel with a series of massive attacks throughout the area, including one on Jerusalem's Temple Mount. It went on and said, what did Hamas think it could accomplish by pouring operatives, money, weapons, and explosives into the West Bank? The point was to plunge the area into turmoil, opening up a second front against Israel to relieve pressure on Hamas in Gaza, as well as to make it impossible for Abbas to pretend to govern the West Bank. Now, today, while Hamas might be weakened militarily in the Gaza Strip, its popularity throughout the West Bank is still riding high. And the longer Hamas's war with Israel goes, the more support they're going to win from the Palestinian community. Hamas wants control over the West Bank, and it will use any deceptive and destructive means to get it. We've been watching for Hamas to make such moves in the West Bank for years, based on prophecies in the book of Zechariah. Notice what we wrote at thetrumpet.com back in August of 2008. We said the Arabs of the Fatah party currently control the West Bank. However, Hamas terrorists and weapons are present throughout the West Bank, and there is little doubt that they are working toward getting control of this strategic region of Israel. Now, that was in 2008. And as we've been telling you, Zechariah prophesies of a violent takeover of half of Jerusalem led by the Palestinians, which is why it is likely that Hamas will eventually grab hold of the West Bank. Its leadership there will most likely be needed to orchestrate and attempt the takeover of East Jerusalem. For more information regarding this coming takeover, be sure to read Iran Conquered Lebanon, Now What? At thetrumpet.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Trumpet Weekly email publication. We send this out every Friday afternoon into your email box if you just go to thetrumpet.com and subscribe today.